Hey, okay, so welcome back to episode 22, and apologies for the delay. Give me 2 seconds while I just make sure my phone is on silent. So, for those of you who joined me yesterday for the first 15 minutes or so, thank you, and thank you for coming back. So, just a little update. Let me just kind of deal with this first. A little update yesterday, the power went out and it kind of came back on about 5 minutes later, and then it went out again. So I decided to just kind of knock it on its head and then come back today to try and do the talk. So it wasn't like I hadn't been booted from the internet. It wasn't me this time. It was the entire street, or maybe they knocked the entire street off. And it's actually quite interesting that it happened to be the entire street. The reason being, mine and Matt's house it's got its own kind of grid connection. Sorry, give me 2 secs, almost finished. It's got its own grid connection, which is different to the rest of the street. I don't know how it happened, but we literally have our very own connection into the grid. So quite often we have no power and everybody else is fine. It's very unusual for us and the street to go out, but that's what happened yesterday. So I hope you enjoyed your bank holiday weekend. So we'll try again. So we kind of were just getting into, well, we were kind of getting into the nitty gritty of influencer bingo. And I bet I've closed my notes. Give me 2 secs so I grab them back up. I'm a bit. There we go. So I tried my best to be kind of ready. So I have Mondays off work stuff, and then I kind of work the rest of the week. So yeah, okay, so I've got my notes back up. And running a bit late because I did grab some grub. And I had pasta and meatballs. I do love a pasta. And so I did go I went proper carnivore for about 3 months, and then I've been like 80% since, and that's about fine. I love carbs, so I love pasta. It's so bad. Okay, so we were talking about influencer bingo. I've kind of been through the whole very strange outfit choices of the influencers, the kind of caterpillar eyebrows, which I thought was highly amusing on my part. I think I was mid kind of giggling, and we're just kind of getting into the nitty gritty, talking about this year. So just to recap for those who didn't join yesterday, so you don't need to watch yesterday's, don't worry about it, it's done. So we were talking about the fact that Israel had funded 550 influencer delegations, and this is pretty much what I was saying when we got cut off. So 550 different influencer delegations are planned until the end of this year. And a delegation isn't just one person. Like, a delegation is like multiple people, at least 10. So if there was 10, then there's like 5,500 people who are being funded by Israel to get their point across. And so their point is the whole they've got aid, that nobody's giving it out. The UN are saying that Israel is not letting them do it. Israel is saying the UN just can't be asked. Then there's UNWRA, UNWRA, which is designated a terrorist organization because of what they're doing. So it's all kind of, there's so many different sides. It's very difficult to figure out what's going on. Also, we have the BBC using images of people images of children from Libya, images of children who have got spine deformities and medical conditions, and if there was a real, and I say real because obviously some children, innocent people, are being harmed, murdered, shot, all of those things. A lot of it is Hamas doing it. Obviously there are Israel is doing it as well, and Israel is being kind of like shot and harmed as well, because it's a war, right? People have to I don't know what's wrong with people nowadays. They just don't seem to understand what happens in a war is both sides are trying to kill each other. Um, and what really needs to happen is the war stop, right? So and we were talking about the whole age of empires, right? Which is what we went through. So everybody was empiring, and so they're trying to rewrite history the same as they're rewriting history, saying that Hitler's good. He wasn't good. He was a fucking junkie who was being funded by the cabal. Nazi Germany was the test bed for propaganda, for researching on people. Like, so Hitler was not good people. So whoever's rewriting history to make Hitler good people is should not be trusted. But similarly, you know, Churchill wasn't like a god, right? He was not good people either, right? Because all the politicians are corrupt, right? And we know this going back and back and back. And actually, I looked into Churchill years ago, and he was very outspoken and very anti a lot of the establishment. And then he was like skin all the time, and then all of a sudden he was financed, right? And so then they brought him into the fold. So you have to do what your masters tell you, and this links into what's going on in Israel, and what's going on with the MAGA influencers who are now going to have to do what they're being told. And we found out yesterday they're being paid at least $1,000 for a video. So this is where we got up to. So recent initiatives 2024, 2025. So MAGA and pro-Trump influencer tour. So in July 25, Israel's foreign ministry funded a tour for 16 influencers under the age of 30, all aligned with MAGA and America's First movements, each with hundreds of thousands to millions of followers, right? So they're not paying people, you know, who've got like a few hundred or even a few thousand. These are like people with a lot of people who kind of keep up with them. There was an $86,000 contract which was awarded to Israel 365, which is a far-right religious nonprofit that promotes biblical support for Israel and has deepened ties with MAGA since Gaza began. It says this since the Gaza war began in 2023, but they've been fighting for decades. So the goal is to ensure MAGA movement adopts a pro-Israel position and failing support among younger conservatives. So basically, people are getting pissed off with Israel, the fact that everybody's funding this genocide, and of course they all are, because all of the UK politicians are all friends of Israel, and even the Labour, right? So people need to pay attention. So propaganda training is what it's been dubbed. So Gaza aid site visits, right? So this is what I was saying I'd spotted across the influencers, you know, wearing very inappropriate clothing outside the aid. So Gaza aid site visits. So in August 2025, Israel's Diaspora Affairs Military sponsored 10 American and Israeli influencers to briefly enter Gaza and field humanitarian aid distribution sites run by the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. The aim is to counter UN and activist claims of famine and starvation by portraying ample aid and blaming inefficiency on the UN or Hamas. Influencers posted content like Israel is not the reason Palestinians are starving, showing piled up aid, and this has sparked backlash on acts with users accusing of participants being paid shills or genocidal denial. So we've got some specific influencers listed. Xavier DeRusio. I don't know how any of these are because I just don't listen to anybody. Cam Higby and Brooke Goldstein. If you know them, they're being funded. So back when the October 7th happened, that's when people were getting paid $1,000 a video to dehumanize Hamas. And so we see dehumanization happened again. So going back to Nazi Germany, right? So Israel as a state are using the same tactics that were used on them, right? Because they were effective, because they worked, right? You're not going to go, do you know what? That Hitler dude and that Nazi party, they were really effective at turning an entire nation, quite a lot of nations, against us. Even nations who fought Hitler kind of turned against the Jews, the people of a Jewish faith. And so we're just going to ignore what he did because he was against us, right? You're not going to be like, oh my god, like we literally saw how effective that was, right? We were being genocided against. So if we want to genocide somebody, then playbook. And they will have like insider knowledge, right? Actual legit passed down, this is exactly what was going on in those camps, right? This is exactly what was happening at that time. There's no kind of sugarcoating it when it's being passed down from family to family with, and they'll have diaries. It wasn't just Anne Frank who kept a diary, like loads of people had diaries back then. And actually, there's a book. It's quite harrowing, but it depends how much you enjoy reading harrowing stuff. So there's a book, it's like this fat, and it's loads of different excerpts from different children's books, and some of diaries, and some of them like are really young children, a lot younger than Anne Frank. And it's and what's really sad is it kind of then gives you the what happened to them at the end, right? So it tells you, I mean, some of them were released, some of them they weren't, but it's that's quite a lot of police cars go flying past. So and it's important to kind of read things that we are uncomfortable with, and it's important to watch and revisit things that are uncomfortable with, because there will be children in multiple places across the world. The Ukrainian children will have been going through similar things, and actually that a lot of that was at the hands of the Ukrainian government. Similarly, we know Hamas purposely deploys themselves in civilian areas because they do not give a shit, right? The reason why they don't give a shit is because sacrifice is worth it, right? That's the mentality of somebody who believes that they are doing God's work, right? So it doesn't matter that people die now, they'll go to heaven, they're martyred, right? That's the mentality of many of these individuals. Like, you are just cannon fodder, you're nothing. But it's also important to remember, right? Anytime we've been at war, we haven't given a shit if there have been civilian casualties, right? Because they're the enemy, right? How many, like hundreds of thousands of civilians have we massacred? And the UN, like the UN soldiers raping, abusing, all the shit that's they're doing, right? All the stuff NATO are doing, which will have our, British soldiers, American soldiers, other European country soldiers doing horrific things, right? Because they're at war. And I don't agree with it. But so it's not unique. So what Israeli soldiers are doing and what Hamas are doing, like, that isn't unique to that situation. It wasn't unique when Russians are doing it to the Ukrainians, or the Ukrainians doing it back to the Russians, or back in World War II when Germany were doing it, and then the Russians were doing it, and then the Brits will have been doing it, right? This is, you dehumanize your opposition, because if you don't, you can't kill them. And for those of you who perhaps forgotten the stories of the things that were going on in, when we first kind of went into Iran, Iraq, and Afghanistan, and they were strapping freaking suicide vests to children. Right, 7-year-old kids are, trained as child soldiers, and lots of British, American troops were killed because we wouldn't kill the child, right? Because we didn't dehumanize the children and the women. And so they were the perfect cover, right? They are the perfect assassins. If you have a child walk in a room with a suicide vest on, and the people who are in the room aren't going to kill the child because they see a child, like, that's, so they're at war, and both sides are doing horrific things to each other, and both sides are spreading propaganda, right? Because that's what happens in war. So people need to stop taking sides. I'm on the side of the innocent people who are being caught up on all sides, and that includes Israelis, it includes Gazans, it includes anybody who doesn't want anything to do with it, and they're trapped. I mean, okay. So on to, Ofcom being slapped down. This is a really interesting story, and I don't think it's getting as much notice as it kind of should. So for those of you who aren't inside the United Kingdom, and maybe you kind of know about Ofcom now because of what they've done. So Ofcom is our TV regulator, and actually they're now the TV and internet regulator. So, you know, people can absolutely report me to Ofcom and I can get fined, and I'll be like, I don't have that money, so fuck you, Ofcom. But so basically, if I say something you don't like anymore, then you can just complain about it, and if you get enough complaints, then you get removed and taken down. So, I mean, but nobody gives a shit if the BBC does it, right? Nobody gives a shit if, but they did care about certain GB newses, and actually we used Ofcom. So I urged everybody multiple times to use Ofcom during COVID, right? And we had Dr. Hillary, who was saying that it was a pandemic of the unvaccinated on ITV. Enough people complained to Ofcom, and they had to apologize and say it wasn't true, right? So it's they did issue guidance saying you can't say XYZ, right? But doesn't mean all the people in Ofcom are bad people, right? So there's that whole meme like that, you know, with the the Fed who's watching my social media, and then all of a sudden the Fed becomes a conspiracy theorist, right? The same sort of thing will happen with Ofcom people, because people are people. Right. So if you watch enough conspiracy stuff, and then you have the gumption to just do a little bit of research, all of a sudden you realize, holy fuck, they're right. So it just depends who the complaints go to. So what's happened is Ofcom has decided that 4chan is going to be fined. So they fined them £20,000 as part of the Online Safety Act, the OSA, and that's what could now gobble me up, and all the other kind of, like, I mean, I'm not a citizen journalist, I'm just somebody who talks a lot, kind of. So I use my powers of psychology to kind of recognize really important PsyOps that we are being ushered into a particular narrative, right? That's kind of the focus of all this. And then also additional daily penalties for ongoing non-compliance. And it's important because 4chan was one of the original message boards where kind of Q drops were happening, right? So are they getting ahead of what's coming? And obviously we're August, and August is almost finished. So we're definitely supposed to be having the Well, China are having their kind of virus, aren't they? It hasn't made it this way yet, but we've got 3 months of like all-out drills, and you know the UK government are threatening. They're advising people to have what's the word? You need to make sure you've got so many days worth of food. Like they're kind of doing all that bullshit again. And then obviously we had a blackout yesterday, so I mean, I was just like, oh, we must be on like wind turbine power, of which there's no wind turbine power, right? So daily penalties for ongoing non-compliance. So their investigation began in June 25 because 4chan failed to comply with 2 statutory requests for information, as well as broader concerns over its lack of measures to protect users from illegal content, such as hate speech, extremism, and criminal activities. So 4chan isn't in the UK, so they're basically saying you have no jurisdiction. So that is what 4chan are saying. They're being represented by Byrne and Storm and Coleman Law, and so they've refused to pay the fine or comply, as they should, as they absolutely should. Now, what's really interesting about this is if they win, right, and I hope they do, if they win, the ramifications are will be pretty wide-reaching. So for anybody who had their maybe YouTube channels removed, their Facebook, they got thrown out of Facebook for their own kind of like group they had, got kicked off the internet, got their business removed from the internet because of the things that they were saying. I may be operating, I may be located in the UK, but I actually have clients from outside the UK as well. So it would be far reaching with the fact that American organizations such as YouTube, Google, all of those things, and obviously Google is like CIA, and Google owned YouTube, right? So Alphabet Inc. Anyway, is they would no longer have to comply when the UK government says you must stop this shit, right? You must not allow this to happen, which they shouldn't have complied in the first place, right? Because actually YouTube has no, and this was always my argument, YouTube has no authority to actually stop. I mean, obviously I know it's a private company, but they have no authority in the UK to decide that my speech goes against blah 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 blah, because they have no reach, right? So it is going to work backwards as well. So in order for so YouTube didn't follow the lawful process in the UK to have somebody removed for hate speech, because they didn't go to Ofcom, they didn't kind of give me a cease and desist, they didn't give me any opportunity to appeal. I had my channel removed retroactively, right? So my strike came for a video that was up there for like 18 months. Then it came back, and then they did another strike for another video that was up for like 2.5 years. So it wasn't even things that I was saying like at the time. And I know that happened to like multiple other people. But I always kind of argued, well, what jurisdiction does the UK government have to tell you need to shut me up? Because like you're an American company. Like surely you can just tell them to fuck off. And obviously they didn't, because they wanted to. But so it's quite interesting that 4chan are using the same thing that I kind of said when I had my channel removed, that they should just tell the UK government to fuck off. And so good, big up 4chan. I don't know whether they're doing a crowdfunder. Maybe we could find out if they're doing a crowdfunder. 4chan law, Ofcom lawsuit, crowdfunder. Are they? I don't know. I'll have a find. I'll find out. So they'll just block it in the UK, but then obviously everybody's doing VPNs anyway. So but they're trying to stop us accessing VPNs. So it says that similar actions were taken in Australia and New Zealand in 2019. So one nation, so they're testing to see whether one nation's laws can regulate international platforms. And so if this kind of goes ahead and Ofcom wins, that will be devastating for just everything, because that means a country with horrific draconian laws has the right to police another country. Like, this is why this is so dangerous. This is why I'm against like the Hague and the International Criminal Court and all of those things. It is not up to the Hague to decide what happens in the UK. It's not up to the UK to decide what happens in America. It's not up to America, and I've always been against this, right? And it's not up to America to go and decide what should happen in the UK or in Iraq or in Iran or Israel. Like, this is why we are having so much shit right now. The only laws that the UK should be bothered about, and the only just the only place where UK law should matter is inside the United Kingdom. And if you're breaching a United Kingdom based law, then you go to prison, right? That's the point. So it's potentially very dangerous, because if you then have a cabal-owned country, like, that's it, because they will just like, this is the law we're doing, and then you have obviously cabal-owned judiciary and who just kind of put it all through. So it's a really important case that we all kind of need to keep our eyeballs on. Yeah, interesting. Okay, so just before we kind of get onto the asylum seeker stuff, there's been let's just like segue to Lucy Connolly. The eye roll Connolly, right? So she's done an hour Telegraph interview, and I haven't watched it, but I'm very grateful to one of the people I've met online, who I would say is I have quite a good friendship with nowadays. Who kind of watched part of it, and had to turn it off due to holding back the vomiting. But she kind of whizzed me a message saying this is what was going on in it, and this is really. So I'm just going to read what she's kind of put in the message. So obviously she's saying I was rightly arrested for what I said, and I said she was, because she incited violence, right? She incited that. She arrested under incitement. She is saying, we need immigration. She says that she would have been in prison if she'd pleaded not guilty anyway. That is not true under any circumstances. So she did a deal to get out of prison. 100%, right? Because she was routinely denied. So we were told she was routinely denied any kind of visits, but in the kind of clips that I've seen, she people had been at, like, the children that she childminded were allowed to come and visit her. So that was kind of really contradictory. But this whole thing is just weird. So she wouldn't be in prison if she'd have pleaded guilty. So there were 1,000 people who were arrested. Only 400 or so went to prison, right? Because they were advised to plead guilty, right? Because she committed a crime, right? And again, like, it's their job to prove guilt and find a victim. Right? Unless there's a victim, you have not committed a crime. And these hate crimes don't hold up if you stand your ground, right? Because there isn't a victim. So it ends up just being bullshit. It's only when people kind of comply and say, oh yeah, well, I did do it, so I probably deserve it, right? And I've mentioned before, women are far more likely to get the book thrown at them when they're convicted. I've told you before, British people are far more likely to plead guilty to a crime. Illegals and immigrants, whether they are illegal or not illegal, if they get caught red-handed, they will still say not guilty. And this is why so many of them get off, right? It's because they have to prove without doubt, because it's criminal court, right? It's not the same as civil court. The burden of proof is much heavier. And when it comes to rape, like only 3% of any kind of like rapes even go to court, right? And yes, because they're sick, they're twisted, they're kind of doing it all, but also a lot of the time it's he said, she said. Right? If the guy's saying she likes it rough and she's saying she said no, like, you have to have proof, you have to have evidence. And unless you are kind of like wearing like a body cam and it's all on camera, then it becomes your word against their word. This is why rapes are notoriously difficult to prosecute. Yes, they don't do it. Like, well, but actually, even when you kind of get down to the nitty gritty, and similarly when like domestic violence cases in the home, especially if you've got like a psychopathic partner, whether that's male or female psychopathic partner, if you've got a psychopathic partner, they are master manipulators. So if you are just a normal person against a psychopath who has been manipulating you for a very long time, that's what they do, right? And they manipulate everybody around them to believe that they're the good person, that there's something wrong with you. You know, you're the problem. So then when you're up in court or when you're going to the police, when you're trying to prove these things, like, it's still your word against their word, and their word will probably be taken more because they are better communicators. They are better at manipulating. They're better at reading people. They're better at yeah. And they're not emotional, right? So because they're not emotional, they will be in touch with the cognitive faculties that enables them to think about the consequences of the things that they're saying. If you're emotional, you will forget stuff. You will maybe get things out of sync because you can't remember this thing, or you'll kind of go off on tangents. And kind of like you talk like me all the time. But so you have to remember that they did it for a reason. Right, there's a reason why they changed the law. They were arresting people within 24 hours. There was like 1,000 people arrested, 400 people like on, like, it was insane. But all the people who said not guilty never went to prison. So she's pushing that I would have gone to prison anyway, even if I'd have said not guilty. So what she's now pretty much telling people is there's no point pleading not guilty, because if you're guilty, you're guilty, right? You'll go to prison anyway. So that's why that's really bad. She's saying it's not about race or color. I mean, I agree with her. It's about whether you're a criminal or not a criminal. She says they asked if I knew Tommy Robinson. I mean, I don't know what the answer is, but that would be interesting. So she's obviously got a crowd fund. She does look like a different person. We have to see the ears, right? You have to see the ears. So people are talking about her face, her chin. I mean, she for somebody who is distraught, stressed, depressed, suicidal, she looks very healthy for coming out of prison. Like, I'm just gonna throw that out there, that she looks better fed than when she went in. She looks, I mean, she wasn't in a maximum security prison. I just, if you are distraught at the fact that the story, the lie that we've been told, that she couldn't see her husband's dying, she couldn't do this, she couldn't do that, she couldn't have any visitors, she's this. I was like, when I saw her, I was like, well, you're looking good. I think maybe I should go to prison too. Maybe I could get a break. Have a little bit of a little holiday resort in a women's prison. But somebody kind of shared some clips and they were saying, oh, she looks really glib about really happy that she's kind of pulled the wool over people's eyes. So she was definitely doing a lot of nervous laughing, right? So from the things that I've seen, this is why I'm like, yeah, she's done a deal. Because she's very careful about what she's saying, like scripted. So she's memorized what she's allowed to say, and then she's clearly nervous about the conversation she's having, right? Because she doesn't want to slip up. She doesn't want to say the wrong thing, whether that's because, the money she's promised isn't coming, whether because they've threatened her saying like, if you don't do this, you are going back for your full term, who knows what. But if I just come out of prison for being like locked away for a fucking tweet, which I deleted, of which only 27 people, and I say 27 people viewed it, but it only had like 27 reach. So maybe 3 people saw that tweet before, but somebody screenshot it randomly. Like, even though she doesn't have a huge following, somebody happened to screenshot it and it blew up, which is really interesting. I'm just gonna, and we have to remember that her husband was like one of the first COVID victims, that was all over the papers. So they're not averse as a family to being paid for their story. And just so you know, I'm in a Facebook group where loads of journalists knock around and they are always asking, have you had XYZ happen? We'll pay you 300-400 quid for your story. So it's not necessarily that they were kind of like, nobody knocked on their door and said, hey, we've got a job for you. She may be in a group like that. And if you can just jump onto X and do #journo request and you can find out what journalists are asking for. So it's really easy. I don't think people understand how easy it is to get into like big like mainstream media, right? So I was in OK Magazine, like talking, I was on I was featured multiple times in like national newspapers on huge stories, because I just like answered the call. Or you do like Harrow, like help a reporter out. So it's not actually difficult to get featured, right? I mean, obviously I did it because it's then like, hey, I've been featured in OK Magazine, it's obviously authority. And I'm like, but I was actually like ripping. I think the reason I was featured is because everybody else was going along with the whole con of I've forgotten what it's called because it's just bullshit. It's just anxiety. It begins with an I. Imposter syndrome. Oh, so just as an aside, imposter syndrome, it's not a real thing. It's just anxiety. It was made up in the 70s by somebody who was trying to make a name for themselves. Like personal development gurus always like do this like all the time. It's just anxiety, right? That's it. Like it's just anxiety. So because I was kind of saying, oh, there's no such thing as imposter syndrome, I think that's why I was picked, because it was like controversial, different opinion. But it's just the truth, right? It's my opinion. It's not controversial. It's just the fucking truth. But it's not hard. So even though the husband was featured, it won't have been like. So this is what people are very confused about when they're saying, oh, but the husband was in the, but they probably just like answered and got paid 300 quid to do it. So when people kind of say like, oh, crisis actors, it's not because like the cabal have got a list of like 20 crisis actors. They'd be like, we need a job, and the crisis actors are like, I need to get paid. Right? So it's and if you need some cash, go for it. Like I don't just tell everybody about it afterwards, okay? But if you need 300 quid, then sell your story. Why not? Like I don't care. But it may just come back to bite you in your ass. And people are wise to it. So this is exactly what the influencers are doing in Israel, right? A grand video. Anyway, where were we? Oh, so Lucy, let me just find the rest of what this lovely lass says. So she's getting all the crowdfunding money. She's getting paid for all the appearances. She helps all the immigrant children fill out their forms, and other immigrants. So they're all doctors and engineers, Nigerians, Albanians, etc. So the other thing is, she said that Ricky Jones was right to be let off. Now, Ricky Jones is the he was the counsellor. I don't know whether he was an active counsellor at the time or whether he was an ex-counsellor. But he is the one who was going like death to all of us, right? So he like was in a crowd at a protest chanting for the pretty much death to white people, death to Brits, up the terrorist organizations. And he, so at the same time she was released, he was let off, because we've got the summer of hate, like it's all kind of happening at exactly the same time. And she was saying he was right to be let off. Like, so that is the strangest, like if anybody in their right mind who's just done like how many of a months in prison, I think it's 9 months. If she's done 9 months in prison for a tweet, there's no way you're going to be like, oh yeah, no, he was right. He was okay to do what he did. I mean, he's a guy as well, right? So the women male disproportion, that's just sadly standard. But yeah, really fucking weird. So she's definitely being paid now. She was, and she's probably been, maybe she was distraught for the first few weeks and then they did a deal. She did a deal. It's not too, and I keep saying this, right? So we have to bear in mind, like, these are real people, potentially. I mean, sometimes it's just all bullshit, but like if you were ripped away from your family and you were told, look, you can come out early, we won't make you stay the full 3 years, we'll get you some interviews where you can get some money because money's tight right now, but you have to sign an NDA and this is what you have to say, right? If you've got a family back home and you're about to lose your house and your husband's dying or whatever's going on, and you like anybody sat there saying like I wouldn't do that is, I mean, I don't think I would go on telly. I'd be like, let me out and I'll just shut up. I don't think I could. No, I would never be able to live with myself. But she isn't kind of speaking. She was never speaking out for the people, right? Because, husband, COVID. So she was already trapped in the bubble, right? I would just stop talking. That's it. So if I go quiet, somebody's offered me some money, I wouldn't take the money. I would just stop talking if they came after my family. They wouldn't come after my family, but well, I mean, they might do Matt, but the rest of my family, they're all part of the club, right? They're all part of they're all part of the propaganda. So there we are. Okay, so that's kind of a little slide into Lucy Connolly. Just same old shit. Okay, so Asylum hotels, and we've had, I mentioned the flags the other day. We've got Notting Hill Carnival is happening, and there was 140 arrests on the first day. There was 100 arrests before the first day, and it will be hailed as a spectacular event, which was where everybody came together, and it was perfect, and it was amazing. And doesn't everybody love, like, that fucking thing needs to be shut down. It is disgusting what they do. So why are we mentioning Notting Hill Carnival when I'm talking about the hotels, because it's all happening at the same fucking time, right? It's the same time Notting Hill Carnival's going on, the same time Ricky Jones was not arrested, and the same time Lucy was released. All of the organized hotel protests are happening, and the flags and all of that stuff. Because we are getting to the point where kids and stuff have to go back to school. So it has to happen now. We've also got Trump putting his big foot down and saying the wars need to fucking end. So they have to have all this happen before Trump's like peace deals all go through, right? So the why now is the timing is it's getting really fucking tight for them because of back to school, because of people going back to work, because the summer's almost over, and we had like freaking buckets of rain come down today, which is good. But obviously, like, there's no food in the UK because they've destroyed the harvest for the last 2 or 3 years. Like, so what we need to really, so there was a supposed win, right? I'm going to say supposed win with regards to the Epping Hotel, right? So the council won, and the Home Office is scrambling to say, well, we need to put these illegals in hotels. And it all kind of comes back to the fact that for some reason in the United Kingdom, they're not allowed to stay in tents, but they are in other countries in Europe. Right? They're not allowed to be kept in asylum detention centers because they were in a detention center, and then the Tony Blair wives of this world said that it is against their human rights. And I'm like, they're not being fucking persecuted, so they can get fucked. So that's how they ended up in the hotels. So the PsyOp is all of those houses they've been building because they're not allowed in the hotels anymore. And because of the UK laws, they're not allowed to be held in the tents. They're not allowed to be held in the asylum centres. They're not allowed to be held in barracks. Remember those RAF and army barracks? They were beneath them. These supposed people who've travelled from war-torn countries. They've scraped over like fields full of landmines, and they've come through deserts, and they've come through like multiple countries where it was safe. Then they got on a dinghy and they fought with the cliffs of Dover. But the barracks that house our military personnel, they're beneath them. The food we give them in the 4-star hotels, they're beneath them, right? They deserve to be put up in Buckingham Palace and waited on, right? That's what they're expecting. That's what they want. They will get the houses, right? People are already, and they already were being turned out of their own homes to house the illegals. And now it's going to be lawful, right? Because they can't do it in the hotels, right? Because that's what's just happened. So the fake lawsuit against the hotel will lead to the houses being gone, right? And obviously there's a petition saying, don't put them in the hotels. I was like, where are they going to put them, right? Because they're not going to deport them. They're not going to deport them. I mean, they need them for like organ harvesting. They need them for experimentation. They need them to start the civil war. It's not like they're going to deport them. So they've been doing it since 2019 due to a backlog. And FYI, 2019, there were 100... I'm pretty sure I looked. There was 120 people who were the illegals through Dover, right? Through the boats in 2019 and 2020. And 2020, as soon as COVID hit and the lockdown happened, that's when they came in their thousands. So, we can thank George Soros and the foundation and all of that stuff that's funding them. So at its peak, 56,000 people were housed in more than 400 hotels. It has dropped to 32,000 in 218 hotels. But it's kind of gone back up to about 32,000 now. So this... It sparked controversy, including violent riots in the summer 2024. That's not what did the riots. What started the riot it was children being massacred by a Libyan child whose dad was linked to Libyan militia, right? Anyway, so I mean, Grok is saying far right. This is really naughty. I'm not far right at all. So there's been lots of demonstrations. So there was a fucking absolute tool of a person. Who was he? Kevin Maguire. Who I don't know, he got a hold of an interview. Let me see if I can just. Oh, I've said something else that's pissed people off. That's interesting. I'm quite good at upsetting people at the moment. So here we go. Yeah, Kevin Maguire, who writes for the Mirror, does he? So he's a fucking idiot. Said I want so he's kind of like doing an interview of somebody, of an asylum seeker living in fear, who's begging like the hotel protesters to stop abusing him, right? So it's an Epping refugee, and this quote, the quote is, "I want everybody to know there are no pedophiles and rapists living inside this hotel." And I kind of just went straight to Grok and I was like, well, that's not true, because the whole thing started because there was a fucking pedophile, right? This is why it started. So to say that there are none is just not true. And actually, I was surprised to find out there wasn't just one, there was two. And so I replied with, that statement is I just like laid the facts, right? Categorically incorrect. Hudsa Gerbalays Kabatu, 38-year-old Ethiopian asylum seeker, was charged with, they're not an asylum seeker, Grok, they are fucking boat jumpers, was charged with 3 counts of sexual assault, 1 count of inciting a girl to engage in sexual activity, and 1 count of harassment without violence following an incident allegedly involving a 14-year-old girl. I'm not sure whether it's an allegedly the girl was 14 or allegedly it happened. It definitely fucking happened, and the girl was definitely 14. He's denied the charges. Of course he has. Right? This is what I mean. They will say it didn't happen. Like, you could literally catch somebody in the act of raping a young child and they would say it's not happening. He's denied the charges and awaiting trial. Additionally, Mohammed Shawak, a 32-year-old Syrian national, was charged with 1 count of sexual assault on a male, along with 2 counts of common assault and 4 counts of assault by beating, related to incidents between July 25th and August the 12th. He pled not guilty to the sexual assault charge, but guilty to the other 6 charges. So I was just like, that's just not, it's not even true, right? So to kind of put that post up there and have people kind of say to you, like, people need to stop abusing this person, because like people need to stop protesting because there aren't any. I was just like, well, that's just bullshit. And actually he got community noted. Well, interestingly, that tweet where I just kind of laid out the facts ended up with is it going to show me? Oh, here we go. 15,000 views, 850 likes, 50 retweets, and then like a lot of people bitching in the comments. So I just ignore the comments. Like, even when people are going, you're a fucking idiot, you're disgusting, and I'm like, yeah, I don't care, because you writing that means people on your feed are then going to go like, what are they saying, right? So I just ignore them. I mean, I get like, you deserve to die, I hope you get raped, like that was the I hope you die in a car crash, and then I got a kiss after, like XOXO, and I was just like, Like, hope you die. Have a nice day. This is weird. Yeah, you get that. Just ignore it. And all the MPs now bitching. Well, people are saying mean things to me. Well, stop voting for all of us to fucking die, then, love. I mean, I don't agree with murder, or I don't think we should be like being awful to people and wishing them death and wishing them rape. But to all the MPs, fucking man up. Like, legit man up. I mean, I know we've had like a couple of MPs being murdered, but the one was murdered by an illegal immigrant. Everybody seems to forget that. Everybody forgotten the MP that was murdered by the illegal immigrant. Yeah, that happened. And then we obviously had the Liverpool MP who was murdered, which we don't talk about that either, because her husband like rose to fame and her sister rose to fame and all of those things. So I reckon she had serious dirt on the Labour Party. She will have done, because she was a woman and they treat you like very much like the Hollywood celebrities, and the women get treated, because all the Labour Party are part of the Fabian Society, and they are sick fucks, like super sick. So like satanic ritual abuse type sick fucks. All of them. Like, it's a prerequisite. Like, actual, you must be part of the Fabian Society to be part of the gang, right? So it's not even like pretend me saying. Anyway, what else is Grocky Doc saying? So the counter protesters, which we were busted. So we had them kind of being brussed in by the police. So Keir Starmer has said he's going to end hotel use by 2029. So councils, so they are being shipped to Labour councils, right? So it's Labour councils where they're being shipped to. Labour councils, which are the ones who use the postal votes, Labour councils that purposely give money to these people and ignore working class far right people, right? So they're not being shipped to idyllic little country toff towns, right? Because that's where all the MPs live. little idyllic toff towns. So for those of you who aren't in the UK, like toff means like posh and upper class. You're probably like, what the fuck is this going on? So the other thing, right, we have to bear in mind, good old Tony Blair put in play in 2004 is something called the Civil Contingencies Act, which enables the government to respond in a very draconian way. So supposedly it was done in response to 9/11, right? And the UK fuel protests. And did you all remember the protests when like fuel became £1, like, and the trucks were refusing, and like there was like people were just like refusing to kind of like, it was just like backed up, right? And then like 2 days later it was like £1.06, and everybody had gotten over it. I remember the fuel protests. Anyway, so they updated the emergency powers frameworks, and it allows ministers to declare a state of emergency, enabling broad measures akin to martial law, such as imposing curfews, banning travel, deploying armed forces to quell unrest. And it won't be our armed forces, because our armed forces is like completely diminished and completely depleted. It will be blue helmets. And if you have been on this journey with me, like live stream journey with me for a while, I have been talking about blue helmets for 5 fucking years. And I was on when I was on TNT radio chatting to good old Darren Denslow, and I was like, talking about elections, all those free people who removed their fucking, what are they called, post boxes, who were then unable to vote for the people who were actually going to work for them, will be the people who have their doors kicked in first. right? Just because you're pretending that you're not part of society, you still fucking are part of society. And just because you're off grid, and we mentioned this last week, you're not really off grid, right? So you might as well put your fucking face on on the interweb, put your real name, put like if you are visible, it's a lot harder for them to do anything. Doesn't mean they can't, doesn't mean they won't. But it's a lot easier for you to just disappear if you are like a no-named, unnamed person. Because people kick up a fuss when people go missing. So it also, they can seize property and assets without compensation. So they try to use this, right? They tried to use it after Brexit. It's part of COVID-19. So they can only implement it for 7 days before it has to go to Parliament. Right. So they shouldn't be able to implement it at all. But so they can do a 7-day fucking like lock down the country for your safety. For your safety, we will have to shut you in your home. I mean, the easiest way to lock down the country is just turn off the power. I mean, power cuts. But, you know, by day 10, like, the world's gone crazy. If you've never seen what happens after a power cut, it's really worth watching. I'm pretty sure it was by day 10, like, so if you think about what is fueled, right? So hospital appointments, like generators are gone, food, anything that's frozen or refrigerated, gone. Like there's no food, no power, no electricity, no communication. Nobody knows how to conversations anymore. Anybody who's had an accident probably bled to death. It's like absolute chaos. People will have gone insane, rioting, looting. There's no way to defend in the United Kingdom. There's no way to defend yourself against a fucking machete man. Big dogs. I'm going to say it again. Get yourself a fucking big dog. I have 3. So it's really easy for them to do it. And obviously they are underground in their hydroponic fed bunkers with all the store stuff that they ever need, right? Well, they're in their gated communities and protected, but they won't be that protected because they will have to be underground, because when people go crazy, they go crazy. Once you get kind of mob rule, like, so we've got pellet guns, like air guns. I'm not a very good shot though. I need to get myself a slingshot. That's what I said I was going to do, wasn't I? Going to slingshot and practice. But I keep forgetting. I will have to write on my hand slingshot. Let's do it. Because and you can use like shot pellets, by the way, but also you can use like rocks and pebbles, and so just get yourself a delivery of like lawn pebbles. There you go. Ammunition. So I do need to practice. Not just to harm people, but it's good. It's good. It's a good like thing to know if I ever need to kind of like kill the pigeons that land in the garden for food. Right, or the rabbits, or I mean the skinning of it. And I've done it before because I was a Girl Guide, and that was fucking creepy. Not being part of the Girl Guides, but when we went to the Girl Guide camp, like as an adult, I can see how and why, like it's really easy to traffic and rape kids from those situations. And the tent, like, this is crazy. Like, there was like lightning storms on one of the girls. She like had a hat. Fucking idiots, right? You know, when you're just like, we've done lightning training, I can't remember how old I was, but that's what went through my head. What a fucking idiot. We've done lightning training. I.e. you don't go sit by a fucking tree, right? You're gonna like just lie flat down in a field. You take all your metal off you, and like that, you're fine. So she was fucking holding onto the pole. I'm laughing. This is awful. I mean, she was alive, right? So she didn't die. But she got electrocuted because she was holding onto the pole in the lightning storm. You know, when you're just like, I mean, my common sense is not always there, but when it comes to like not getting zapped by lightning, pretty good at that. Okay, so we're talking about the PsyOp, right? So this is the PsyOp, that everybody's like, oh yeah, we're winning. We're not winning. We're doing exactly what they need to be done, right? Because it's a Labour council who's fucking doing it. And so they will be being told by National Labour, like, you can do this one, because it will be the Labour National Labour Party who will be funding the fucking lawsuit. Because if you're an MP and you say no, then you get the whip removed, right? If you're a fucking Labour council, you think you can do a lawsuit against the Labour government with like off your own back, and it's not like all planned. I swear I just don't understand what people think really goes on. They could just, people need to start using their common sense. It's very frustrating. Very frustrating. Okay, so thank you for joining. Like, second day. I'm really stiff. I've been sat in this chair all day today. Okie coke. So are you up for the challenge? This is where we're going to end today, and I'm actually not going to keep you very long either, because so yesterday I was all inspired, because I know that we were kind of, oh shit, my tortoise. So the, what's it called, the power cut really kind of messed with his timer. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so last week I was kind of saying stuff, and I was like, you know, I know I say the same kind of stuff all the time. It is really that simple when it comes to being well, and I say that simple. Simple things, they're not necessarily easy to do. And not yesterday, let me kind of like roll back. So in the lab, the Happiness Hacks lab, I do a challenge every single month, and the challenge we're doing this month is 29 days of self-care. So it's 29 days because we go from new moon to new moon, right? Because then you could do 13 in a year, right? And if I can do 13 things when everybody else is doing 12, I'm going to do 13. So we're doing 29-day challenges, and at the moment it's the self-care one. And as I was kind of just like getting stuff ready for yesterday, I was like, oh, I know what I could do. I could kind of give everybody this thing for free, right? If I, so yeah, I was like, oh, you know, I've got like 2 hours before the show, so let's just like create an entire website. Let's just like create an entire email sequence so everybody can just like throw their email in and then have it delivered like a day at a time, right? Because that's the way I roll. I don't have enough shit to do anyway. Let's just make it easy for people. Let's just do something else for everybody. So it's 29 days, really simple stuff. You can do in like 5 minutes or less. You get to see, you just do the thing, tells you why it's beneficial. It's all focused on increasing serotonin, oxytocin, and dopamine. Serotonin's your kind of like happy hormone. I kind of like mood stabilizing hormone is what turns your immune system on. Dopamine is your reward hormone, which is only kind of like bibbing around your system for about 1.5 to 5 minutes. So you actually have to do lots of stuff, right? I mean, other than kind of like taking heroin and shit like that, which I do not recommend, right? You can do it without the drugs. You just have to do kind of stuff more consistently. And then oxytocin is your kind of like love hormone. And so in the lab, like we're on day 4. today. It's kind of a funny one. But they're all like really simple things for you to do. You literally just like I don't need your name. I don't need to I don't need your bank account details. You're not signing up to anything else. Literally like 29 days, drip fed, do this thing, feel awesome. So it's going to cover some of the stuff that we talk about, some of the stuff we don't really talk about, but going to help you for 0 pennies get the jump on your health and just feel good, right? Now I've got to figure out where I put the thing. Fuck's sake. Oh, wait a minute. I'm sure I made it labeled it really easy. Should I just put self care? Yeah, I did. There we go. So it's super basic because I did it fast, and then we had a power cut. So I was like, all right, well, thanks, universe. Okay, so I'm going to drop it in. Oh shit! Oh no! Hey Pen. Hey Astor and Ace. Apologies. I didn't even have the chat open because it's Tuesday, so I'm not really sure what I'm doing in my life today. Right, let's go to here. You will need to make sure it kind of doesn't end up in your spam folder though. There's not links. I don't think there's links in the emails. But it might spam. You have to double check. So make sure you kind of pull it into your main folder. Make sure you kind of whitelist it by saying, yes, I want this email, because otherwise you'll miss them. And it will kind of come 24 hours from when you sign up, right? So every 24 hours you'll get a new one, right? So if you're literally kind of listening and you're about to roll over and go to bed, then sign up and do it first thing in the morning. So set an alarm, right? So the reason why people sign up for challenges and they never finish them, so many people don't finish them. I always finish them because I think I know how much effort the person put into making it, right? So there's no point starting if you're not going to finish. So decide, like I said, it's going to take 5 minutes or less. I mean, some may take 10 minutes, but most of them are 5 minutes or less. So you can do it on a little break while you've got the kettle boiling. Fit it into your brushing my teeth, doing my thing, and then you can use these things over and over again, right? Anything you really like, just do it all the time. So it's going to give you, because I know that we were talking about how do you know what to do, and I was like, well, go to an AI and say what you used to like doing. But I also know some of my clients they don't even have the capacity to do that. So I try to find a way to make it as easy as possible for you to actually find things that you like doing as a way to help you feel good, so that then you can have a bank of things that you can use in future. So if you're here on X, this is the 29. I'm not actually advertising this, by the way, outside of this 29 day. I probably should. Oh, I don't know whether I can be bothered. Care challenge. I'm only doing it for you guys. I mean, it's there. I only decided to do it for you guys, should I say. There's not even an image. How when you share stuff, there's an image that says, oh, this is not even one of I haven't literally skeleton up and done for you. So you no longer have to kind of worry, or you no longer have to kind of think, oh, where am I starting? How do I do this thing? What do I do? Hey, Tracy. Oh, see, so according to my thing, there's nobody here, 2 people. And I was like, that's sad, but I don't care. I'll just talk anyway. So you can do the challenge too if you want, obviously. And I know some people don't really like hack emails, but sorry. And if you've got, so one thing people do I say create an entire new email account, like, just for a challenge, right? So if you don't particularly like emails, or you happen to have lots of emails that you're avoiding, right? I mean, I've got like almost 4,000 emails in my inbox because I'm just really shit. I kind of look and then don't have the energy to delete them. I'm the reason, right? We're using all the water. So I have started to make a conscious, like, I've been going through and deleting en masse, right? Because if I haven't read it now, I do have some that I need to kind of, they're important. But I just get so much spam. It's just like, it's the effort and the time, right? Anyway, so, so you don't have to go into, if there's an email box that you're avoiding, just create a new email account. Set your alarm, whatever time you're going to do it the same time every single day, right? So you've got to start building a habit. So you need to do it for 29 days straight. Round about day 21, you're going to start to get the, oh, it's a bit, this is your brain pushing back, right? Anytime you're trying to build a new habit, after about 3 weeks, your brain's just like, oh, you don't need to do it anymore. This is when, everybody makes those, what are they called? You make those New Year's resolutions, and by week 3, you're like, I can go to the gym tomorrow. This is your brain saying, because this is like the really important kind of brain synaptic pruning thing, right? Your brain's like, the connection starting to get a bit strong. You're starting to become a new person. And then your brain's like, but we don't know who you are when you're this new person. So it's now deciding, do you know what? Let's just like stay in the safe zone. Let's go back to where we were. So don't worry about it. You don't need to do this thing. So you will need to set an alarm. You will need to show up every single day for 29 days. And so the other thing that's going to help you show up every single day is celebrate after you've done it. Right? So do it and then celebrate the fact that you've done it. And it doesn't always have to be like cake or like, a party. It doesn't have to be something huge, but maybe there is like a TV show that you love watching. Maybe you tell yourself, I mean, I don't know whether people watch TV shows anymore. Anyway, if like, but if you love your morning coffee, I'm not having my morning coffee until I've done my thing, right? So do a bit of bargaining and bartering with yourself, right? And that's, so start becoming accountable to you, and this will really help you become accountable to you. You're going to learn about all the different techniques that you can use to increase serotonin, dopamine, and oxytocin. If you ever feel shitty, that's where you need to focus. You have to increase those things because they're the things that make you feel good, right? It doesn't just happen on demand. If you've had an adverse life-based situations, right? If you've had adversity in your life, then those levels will be depleted. You'll be trapped in your fear state where those hormones are kind of turned off. So you need to start turning them back on. Teach your body and your mind that it's healthy. It's good for you to be in this position. You can only do that by doing. Right? This is the thing that people don't talk about, and it drives me fucking crackers. Getting over anxiety and any of your past life experiences is like playing Russian roulette. The only way to do it is by staring down the barrel of the gun and pulling the trigger. Right? If you don't pull that trigger, then nothing will change. And people who've never had trauma, have never experienced trauma, who've never had anxiety, don't understand that. And so the majority of the... Oh, you shouldn't have froze. Yeah, that should be it. happinesshackslab.com/self-care. Darn it. Wait there. Let me see what's going on. Where are we? Maybe I forgot to set the button. I mean, it's quite possible. It is highly possible. You might have to refresh. Edit. Oh, yeah, and I couldn't test it, could I? Because I had no... No, it should have worked. I don't know. Let me know if you get the email. I'll have it. Yeah, it says it's showing that it should work. It's not in test mode anymore because I did that before. Because, that's the shit I do. I don't know. Um, oh, see, this is why you're supposed to sign up to this shit yourself to check that it works. I don't know. What did I say it was called? Self-care. There we go. Oh, yeah, no, it worked for me. You should see this. Yeah, I've just done it. Oh. No, I've just signed up for it, so it definitely works. I was like, "Oh my god, I'm, like, so bad at doing this." But no, it should. Yeah, I just did it. I can't, yeah, you should see this afterwards. You see, like, my top of my head. So it just did it. I don't know. Try a different email address, or just give it a sec. Maybe, yeah, maybe you've got a blackout. I don't know, sweet. If you can't, I don't know. I'll have a proper look once we finish because it's telling me I haven't opted in. Maybe it's because I've like it's like fuck's sake, the same email's back. I will, yeah, I went to the, I don't know, I'll have a look for you, sweet. So give me 5. Give me 5. But you've got to do the things, right? So that's the thing with anxiety. You have to do the things, even if you're taking medication, which isn't beneficial, but it's a different conversation. You have to do the things to overcome the anxiety, right? That's it. The medication, the only thing that's ever going to do is to give you the energy and the confidence to do the things you need to do. So it's not, medication doesn't fix it. It's not, and even if you take medication for painkillers, they're just masking the problem, right? There's something wrong, which is why you're in pain. You need to deal with the thing that's causing the pain. So anxiety is the same, depression is the same, DID is the same. You can't just take a pill. Like, you have to do the things. You have to rewire your brain. That only happens with you taking consistent and persistent action over time. Thankfully, it doesn't take a very long time. If it's taken you months, even years to go downhill, it only takes weeks to come back up again. And there will be shit that you experience in your life later on, because we can't make sure life is perfect. However, the more you improve what's going on in your brain, you increase the capacity for it to function well. Anytime you experience an adverse reaction, the recovery is shorter. Say for example, if something happens and it takes you a couple of months at the minute to kind of come out of the shit hole that you dug yourself for yourself, the next time it may only be maybe 6 weeks, then the next time it might be 2 weeks, then the next time it might be 2 days, then it might be 2 hours, then it might be 2 minutes. So that's what happens, is nobody ever ends up in a place where they're just like, life is amazing all the time, because that's not reality. We are literally in World War III. Whether you kind of like are on the front lines like the people are in Iran and Gaza and Israel and all of those places, or in London, whether you're on the front line and being targeted, or you're still being psychologically abused, like habitually, by governments and all of that stuff. So there is non-stop shit being slung at you. So you are going to experience adversity. What wiring and rewiring does is it strengthens your resolves and builds resilience so that you can weather the storm. And if you end up getting knocked down, you stand up faster. Right. So I have shitty days. I have times where I'm sat there. I mean, this is why, like, sometimes on social media, I'm just fucking giving out on everybody because I've had enough. Right. And then I'm like, a couple of hours later, I'm like, oh, fuck's sake, Kate, you really shouldn't have done that. You should have just probably done some EFT. Right. That would have been better. But I didn't want to at that point in time. I felt justified. And then I deal with the ramifications of the shitstorm that comes back afterwards. Right. Because I'm human. But in the past, I would have been down for weeks, months, right? That's where we all start. And so it's really important that you understand how life is once you've started the recovery journey. It's not instant, it's not magic, but you become stronger every single day. And the only way that happens is by putting one foot in front of the other, doing the things that you need to do to heal. And the challenge, now that it works, will help you put one foot in front of the other for the next 29 days. So enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. Next week, fingers crossed, there's no blackouts, because it's definitely easier for me to kind of do this on a Monday. Thank you so much for joining me. Give me a shout if you need anything. If you do, I'm going to have to go do a bit of investigation just to make sure it is working properly, because that'll be sad if it's not. It should be. I don't know. Anyway, have yourselves an amazing rest of your evening, and I shall see you. Yeah, my email's not come through unless it's gone into junk. Yeah. Trace, let me know whether you get your email or whether it just kind of whizzed you over. Yeah. Anyway, so have a great rest of your day, and I shall see you next Monday. Lots of love.